Thank you for joining us. I'm your host Molly, and for this episode I'd like to welcome Ruth Jordan. Ruth is a quality improvement specialist with over 20 years of experience in the South Wales health system. She started her career as a physiotherapist, but has since transitioned into managing major improvement and transformation programmes across a wide range of service areas. Ruth was instrumental in establishing the Spread and Scale Academy in Wales in 2019, which has since become a successful programme under the All Wales Intensive Learning Academy for Innovation in Health and Social Care. She is now the Spread and Scale Programme Director at the Dragon's Heart Institute and a Fellow of the Billions Institute, with whom she co-delivers the Academy. Together, Ruth and her team have helped train dozens of teams working on cutting-edge innovation and best practice on how to spread and scale their projects, giving them the tools, skills and self-knowledge as large-scale change leaders to ensure that as many people as possible can benefit from their work. Thank you so much for joining us, Ruth. So to begin, if it's okay, I'd like to ask you some quick-fire questions just so our listeners can get to know you a bit better.
Yeah.
What was the last book that you read?
Oh gosh, that's a really, really, really good question. What was the last book I read? Do you know what? I don't even know. I tend to only read when I'm on a holiday, and I'm a terror for like terrible chick flicks. But I actually think it was one of the Richard Osman books. The Murder Club. I think it was the latest of those. I love those books.
Yeah, I'm a holiday reader as well. I'll read 3 books, and now my to-do list is just full of books now.
Yeah.
What was the last thing that you learned?
The last thing I learned, do you know what? I think you're learning every single day of your life. I don't think it's that straightforward. But I guess if I was thinking about last thing I learned because I was trying to learn it, I spent a lot of time doing some work on kind of internal who I am and what my yeses and nos are and what what drives me and things like that. And that's probably the last formal piece I've done.
And what is your greatest strength?
My greatest strength. So in Spread and Scale, which we're here to talk about today, we would call that genius. So we would say genius is where it's something where you've got huge amounts of energy and you love it, but also you're really, really, really good at it. And I would describe my genius as an authentic curiosity in relationship. So I am, incredibly curious, which some people describe as nosy. But, the polite way is curious, but I do that within relationships. So I just authentically really fascinated by people.
What motivates you?
What motivates me? So I absolutely love, and I'm so incredibly passionate about helping people who want to make a difference. So whether that is helping them by helping them develop, and kind of seeing potential in people and then going, oh my God, let's see you get to your potential. Or whether that is they've got a thing that could make a difference or is making a difference to people's lives, but could make a difference to so many other people's lives. I am absolutely privileged in what I do as a job, and that is it.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Do you know what? I always used to say if I won the lottery and didn't have to I could just do what I wanted to do. Not only would I travel the world because I love travelling and watch sport particularly because I love sport, I would love to work in a wedding dress shop.
Really?
Now I think it's probably harder than I suspected it is, so I'm not, but just that watching people put their dress on for the first time.
Yeah.
I just
magical.
think it must be, exactly that.
Yeah.
So that's I think would just be
that's a lovely one. Thank you for answering those. It's really interesting to know a bit more about you personally. So the theme for today's episode is Spread and Scale, and I mentioned at the beginning you were instrumental in establishing Spread and Scale Academy in Wales in 2019. So can you start by giving us an explanation of what Spread and Scale is?
So as you said, 2019 is something we picked up actually from the southwest of England, but now have taken on and really kind of lead that for the UK. So my background is, I'm a physio by background, but have worked in quality improvement for years. And there are so many brilliant people solving some really complex problems that end up with a solution. And then it doesn't get spread anywhere. So it kind of stays wherever the problem was. We know the biggest problem of our time is spreading these incredible best practice. And the research tells us it takes 17 years on average for something in healthcare that has even been through research trials, so it's proven to work. It takes 17 years on average to get to half the people that could benefit.
Wow.
And we do not have 17 years. We just don't have 17 years. The world is rapidly changing and things are tough. So we need to do things differently. And the only way we can do that is to accelerate the spread of these new innovations and new improvements and new systems as quick as we can. So that's kind of what Spread and Scale is about. How do we unleash these incredible things to spread quickly?
And can you share a success story where you've used Spread and Scale on a project or initiative and kind of explain the key factors and what contributed to its being so successful?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we run Spread and Scale Academies, which we do twice a year, one of the things we do is interview somebody who came to our very first academy in September 2019. And his name's Paul Toos, and he is a consultant therapist, physiotherapist. And he came with a problem around care of patients with tracheostomies. So these are people that have had kind of breathing tubes put into their neck, and they generally have them put in intensive care and then often get discharged from intensive care to wards with their breathing tubes in their necks, and sometimes get sent to other hospitals. And the care of those patients and making sure they're safe can be tough if you don't know how to look after a tracheostomy. So he came with that problem that we've got safety issues, and has gone on the most incredible journey since then. So he started off thinking we need a team of people to do tracheostomies in each health board, which costs a lot of money. The reality is it costs a lot of money. Ended up moving that to we need to build an education package. That he was kind of in the process of getting out, and then COVID happened, which was actually a really useful scenario because tracheostomies became more frequent. There was more people in intensive care, and there was a real need kind of for this care. He ended up kind of through many steps getting a grant from the Cardiff Capital Region and working with some tech companies to build a virtual reality education platform that has now been adopted across the whole of the UK by one of the colleges. And his story's got huge amounts of details, and it's very much focused in on a patient story that kicked it off. And I think the key things, and I did talk to him, I knew you were going to ask me this, so I did talk to him beforehand and was like, Paul, what would you say your key learning pieces were? What were the things that really made a difference? I think one, his work is completely grounded in a story of a patient and the difference it's made. So we will always say with Spread and Scale, data does not make people change. It's feelings that make people change.
Yeah.
So that made a big difference. I think the fact that he completely and utterly was in love with his problem, not his solution, which you often find people have. They have a solution, they're like, I've got to stay to the fidelity of this. But he actually was in love with his problem. So when his original solution to that problem didn't work, he was able to completely change direction and make shifts. That's really, really important. He wasn't afraid to kind of make the pitch and knock down doors to people, even really senior people. So he will say, like, he was speaking to the chief exec of the organisation and kind of going to people, even though he wasn't necessarily convinced it would make a difference. So the grant he got, literally, he would say to me on the phone, I don't think there's any point, Ruth, I don't think there's any point. I'm like, try it. What's the worst they're going to do? They'll say no. He got it in the end. It was amazing. He would also say having somebody who's there to kind of be on the end of the phone to support and kind of back up that what you're doing is the right thing was really, really vitally important. I think they're probably the main things, but also that not being afraid to go beyond your own silo. I think in healthcare we're really siloed, and it's really easy to get stuck in just working with your silos, but kind of opening ideas out to other organisations, other sectors, but then being happy to let that go and let them run with it.
Yeah.
Is the whole point of what we teach in Spread and Scale. So not being complete control freakery about it. So that's what he'd say. And I would agree with him. It's been amazing to go, even be a little part of supporting him for his journey. It's been incredible.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's really amazing to hear that kind of story. You've said that when leading large-scale change, it can be so tempting to want to start by addressing or fixing things in the world of organisations. Starting with the end in mind, how can we encourage leaders to take a step back and consider the bigger picture of the organisation before just jumping straight to a solution?
So I think there's two parts to that. So I think the first part is your view and your lens. So we do quite a lot of work with people kind of understanding who they are and therefore the lens they're bringing to the work, because the lenses are always, you've always got blind spots. You've always got blind spots. Whether that is down to your upbringing, down to your culture and, you know, that being different to other people's, whether it's down to the organisation you work in. So starting with that, it gives you an idea of where your blind spots are. And once you know where your blind spots are, you know who you need to bring in to help make them not blind anymore. So that's the first step. But then it's about an organisational and system assessment. So we will always take people through, can we analyse the system you're in, thinking about the barriers, but also the enablers, and primarily really going in on the mindset level of that, because people, when they think about systems, will often stay at the level of what they can see, the processes and the actions. And if you stay at that level, you're very much in the, well, I'm thinking about the organisation I'm in, because that's all I can see.
Yeah.
Whereas if you start really delving down into that kind of mindset piece, you can start going, okay, well, our mindset is, I don't know. So the example I always give when I'm training is, so in health, we'll have something called DNAs, do not attend, for patients. And you'll see it in the press all the time, the DNA rates, you know, people aren't turning up for appointments. That's basically what it means. And that's the exact language people use. The patient has DNA'd. And by saying the patient has DNA'd, you have automatically made it the fault of the patient. It's their fault. The patient has DNA'd. Your solutions when you're thinking about things like that are, well, let's charge patients. You know, you see it in the press again.
Yeah.
GPs, let's charge patients for A&E attendance. Their fault. You know, let's charge patients for GP attendance. Whereas actually, if you do a mindset switch and go, okay, well, actually, it's not that the patients have DNA'd, it's that we've not made it possible for them to attend. So we've probably not got them the letter. So actually, if your language becomes, we haven't enabled the patient to attend, your solutions become very, very different. Your solutions become, we need to look at our postal system. We need to maybe think about doing these appointments in different places, going into the community, you know, being where they need us to be to enable them to attend. And as soon as you start thinking things like that, then you're like, well, what organisations are out in the community that we could go and partner with? So a lot of it is about what's the system drivers that are getting in the way and stopping you being able to do this. And you can often tell those by language.
Yeah. As I mentioned, you established a Spread and Scale Academy, but do you have any other recommendations or resources that you could share with leaders who are interested in Spread and Scale and want to learn a bit more?
Yeah, so our website, dragonsheart.org, has got a whole Spread and Scale page on it, so you can find out more there, and there are stories in the news views and more section, so you can kind of see what other people have done and how they've gone forward. And then we are genuinely very, very happy to come and talk to anybody. So we have an hour-long presentation that we can come and give. We have various slide decks, worksheets, little workbooks that we can come and help people with, or send to them, or happy to have a chat, really. We've spent quite a bit, since 2019, we've put a lot of effort into building the capability in Wales. So we work with an organisation called the Billions Institute, who are based in America. So the model we teach, the model for unleashing, is their model. And that came out of two massive programmes in America, one being the 100,000 Lives campaign and one being 100,000 Homes campaign, both who did incredible things. But obviously it's not sustainable to constantly rely on someone from America. So we've been building capability in Wales since 2019 and now have that. And because we have that, so we've got 5 fellows, we've got a range of facilitators. We're trying to build a hub and spoke type model, so there's people locally who can support this. But in essence, we have a contact form on the website. Anyone can reach out and we are happy to work out what we can do to help or let them know about stuff.
Thank you so much for all of your stories and ideas and advice. I hope you've enjoyed the experience.
I have, thank you.
Mae un podlediad Sgwrsiau ar Arweinyddiaeth ar gael trwy ein gwefan. Mae'r hawlfraint y podlediad yma yn cael ei gadw gan Llywodraeth Cymru. Our Conversations on Leadership podcast is available through our website. Copyright of this podcast is held by the Welsh Government.